Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video all about how I became a high school fashion design teacher. So I thought I would sit down and film this video today, one, because it is my first week back to school with students, so this video is perfectly timed to share with you guys about what I do for my job every single day, and also because I literally have no energy to film any other type of video and don't have enough time to do a sewing project this week, and the fact that I still have energy to be speaking right now is honestly a miracle after having been speaking and been on my feet and running around for 7 straight periods today at school. But here we are, and I am so excited to tell you about my journey to how I got to be a high school fashion design teacher, because it is literally the coolest job ever. So this is a question I get quite frequently on my YouTube channel when people find out that I teach high schoolers fashion design as my job every single day. And honestly, in my daily interaction with people, whenever I tell them what I do, they always look at me and ask, they still teach that in schools? And it blows people's mind because a lot of people associate fashion design and sewing at a high school level with the 1950s and homemaking classes, life skills, and home ec. And what people don't know is that those classes still exist today. They have actually just diversified and become even better and more awesome, and what we used to know as homemaking, home economics, or life skills is now known as family and consumer science. So home economics was actually rebranded a number of years ago to be family and consumer science and actually become more diverse to include more specific classes and also target more students than what we stereotypically think as just being targeted at girls. So a lot of people think about these classes as the 1950s and girls who would take them to be prepared to be homemakers, but today these classes are very specific and prepare students, yes, with life skills that are very valuable, but also prepare a lot of students with skills for future jobs in industries like fashion and hospitality and tourism and nutrition and culinary. So in order to tell you the story of how I got to be a high school fashion design teacher, we have to rewind it back to when I was in junior high and high school to get a full picture of how I somehow crazily ended up here. So the crazy thing is that when I was in junior high and up until being in high school, if you had come to me and asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would never once have said a teacher, which honestly is so crazy because both of my parents are teachers and I have a number of teachers and extended family members on both sides of my family. So the fact that I never considered going to college to major in education and become a teacher is kind of crazy. But when I was in junior high, I actually wanted to be a vet tech and work with animals. I love animals, but I don't know why I ever thought I wanted to do that every day and not work in some kind of creative field. And so when I got into high school, I really discovered my love for fashion. Not just for sewing, but for using fashion as a way of self-expression and designing. And so I was the girl who literally would sketch on any piece of paper that was lying around. I would sketch on napkins, any scrap piece of paper. If I were somewhere and I got bored or really wasn't focusing anymore, I was probably sketching out designs on any piece of paper that I could find. And so with that love and passion for fashion and design, I started thinking about becoming a fashion designer. And at that point, I just thought it was this really cool idea that I could make clothes for people, and I didn't really understand the industry. So as a freshman and sophomore in high school, that was kind of my idea, is to go to school and major in design. I really kind of wanted to go to school in New York and almost kind of live there, and I don't think I even ever shared that with anyone close to me. I think it was just this idea and this dream that I had. And so my parents really didn't even know that I wanted to go to school for fashion design. And so I would get on the computer and research different universities that had fashion programs to see if it was something I was interested in, since I did love to sew and make clothes. And after a while, I started to realize that as much as I loved fashion, I didn't really want to work in the fashion industry, because when I was in high school, I feel like the fashion industry was not as diverse as it is today. And honestly, what is that like? 5, 6, 7 years ago when I started this process and when I was in high school. And so it really isn't even that long ago, but fashion has come a long way, especially in regards to social media and apps and just entrepreneurship in regards to fashion. And so I feel like that wasn't something that I really came across all the time. The only jobs that I always came across in fashion were to be a fashion designer and work in the industry, and it was an incredibly hard job. And the more I did research about it, the more I realized that it would probably be super stressful for me, especially as an introvert who really didn't like crazy stressful jobs. And so the more I thought about it and the more research I did, I started to realize that maybe I didn't want to go to school for fashion design. And so I started pursuing different options. And at that point, I kind of moved away from this idea of fashion design. And when I was a sophomore into my junior year of high school, I actually started a cupcake business. And so I became super passionate about baking, and I decided that I wanted to open my own cupcake bakery one day. So for my last 2 years of high school, I was actually seriously pursuing going to school for culinary or going to school for business. I know those are two polar opposites, but both of them would have given me valuable skills for owning my own bakery one day. And I'm sharing this because this is how I got to the point of realizing that I still wanted to do something in the realms of fashion. And so as a young entrepreneurial high school student having a cupcake business, it was called Sweet Side Cupcakes. They were delicious. All of my like original unique flavors, like I still make today, and they're still some of my favorite treats. But I started to pursue this idea of going to culinary school. And so we actually had a culinary school in Houston near where I live, and it was called the Art Institute of Houston. And so we actually set up a day to go and get a tour of their facilities and to hear more about their program. And I remember going there and generally being excited to like hear about their culinary program and getting a tour of the kitchens and, you know, thinking, okay, this is really cool, but I wasn't really like feeling that this is what I wanted to do. And I remember walking down the hallway where all of their fashion design classroom labs were, because it was an art institute, so they had culinary classes, graphic design, and fashion design. And I remember walking down the hallway and walking past the fashion design labs and seeing the mannequins and seeing the designs and seeing the fabric, and honestly just like stopping in my tracks and staring at it and being mesmerized by it, because I realized I was so much more excited to see these sewing labs than I was to hear about the culinary program. And I remember my mom looking at me and saying something along the lines of, "You're really interested in that, aren't you?" Or like, "You really like those rooms." And so I think at that point she started to realize that I still really had a heart for doing something in fashion. So I decided not to go to that school and pursue a degree in culinary. Also, it was super expensive, and I actually was going to get an associate's degree, which is only 2 years, in baking and pastries, and it just really wasn't worth it in my eyes. And I started to kind of realize I didn't really want to own a bakery anymore. I was changing my mind a lot. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I was like a senior in high school, and I started to decide, okay, I will just go to college and get a business degree because that will help me if I want to own a bakery one day. And so the more I thought about it, I realized, one, getting into business school can be super tough and competitive, and two, I am not the kind of educationally bright student to succeed and thrive highly academically in business school. And so at this point, as a senior in high school, I kind of just really had no clue what I wanted to do, because all of the things that I was interested in just didn't seem like the right fit. And so it wasn't until my mom came to me one day and kind of told me of a degree that she had discovered that I realized, okay, I think I know what I want to do. And as a senior in high school, not knowing what you want to go to college for can be super nerve-wracking, especially when you have like all these things you have to figure out. But I remember her coming to me one day and she was like, "Hey, I discovered this degree called Family and Consumer Science. Basically, you could go to college, take classes in everything that you already love, and then you could minor in education and become a teacher one day." And I was like, sign me up. That sounds amazing. I have literally no questions. That sounds like the perfect fit. And so we started on the process of signing me up to go to college to major in family and consumer science and minor in education. So if you're not familiar with what a degree in family and consumer science entails, like I said, family and consumer science is the rebranded name for home economics and like your life skills classes, which the crazy thing is that two of my great aunts actually went to college in the 1940s and like early 50s for home economics, and I didn't realize that until I started my path on college. And so it was really cool to realize I actually not only have teachers in my family, but I have great aunts who actually went to college for the same thing that I am. So anyways, a major in family and consumer science means that you take a lot of different classes in a lot of different areas, which is what I love, because I got to take classes in all of these different realms of things that I was already passionate about in life. I was someone who loved planning events and loved planning parties. I loved learning about like people's interaction with each other, and I was super passionate about like educating people about healthy relationships. I loved cooking and I loved baking. I loved interior design. I loved any aspect of design. I loved fashion design. And so family and consumer science literally is a degree where you get to take classes in all of those things. So for my degree, I ended up taking 2 classes in fashion design. I took one which was an introductory class to like sewing terminology, and most of the people in that class were beginners, and so I was someone who already had a lot of experience, so it was fun learning more of the technical side of sewing in general. I also took a class all about pattern making and clothing construction. And so when you're watching my sewing videos and I'm talking about slopers and pattern making, all of those skills come from my class I took in college. So I also took a class about textiles one summer. I took an interior design class. I took 2 different nutrition / cooking classes. I took an interpersonal studies class. I think I maybe took a child development or child guidance type class. And we also did like hospitality classes, a design class. There were just always really cool courses that I got to take, aside from, you know, your core classes like math and science and histories and things that you have to take, that I really enjoyed going to every day in college, and that taught me so much more about things that I already generally liked and enjoyed. And so it was really fun to learn those things, and then now as a teacher get to teach that to my students. So that was my major, was family and consumer science, and then I minored in secondary education. So minoring in secondary education meant that I still got to take education classes and go through the education program and process in education college. So I got to do multiple different education classes, methods, the methods program, and then I got to do student teaching, where I actually had 2 different mentor teachers, and I got to be in the classroom and really learn what it was like and is like to be a teacher, to plan lessons. And those teachers were amazing because they were also family and consumer science teachers, and so I learned a lot from them. And honestly, it's because of them that I am the teacher that I am today and have my love and passion for the classes that I do teach. And so that was really awesome. So if you are someone who is very right-brained and you love creative things and you want to be a teacher but you don't want to be a core teacher, I would consider checking out family and consumer science. It isn't offered at every single university. It is a very kind of, in a way, an unknown major, and many major universities really don't offer it. I went to school at Sam Houston State University in Texas, which has a great family and consumer science program. They also have a really awesome fashion merchandising program. So you would have to do research to see if universities in your area offer that program, if it's something you're interested in. If I weren't to have, or if I hadn't minored in secondary education, there's still a lot you can do with a family and consumer science degree. You can work in different types of human services jobs. I could have been a wedding planner and a lot of other things, but I really decided I wanted to become a teacher with it. And so I really discovered my passion for teaching through going to college and going through that program and being in the classroom with students and getting to teach them things that I was very passionate about as a person. If you can do something that you're passionate about, you will really never feel like you're working, and it will be the most rewarding job, especially as a teacher. So after I finished up all of my college classes, when was that? I don't even remember. Life has gone by so quickly. I'm in my 3rd year of teaching, and it feels like I just started my 1st year of teaching yesterday. I don't even remember the dates. I'm pretty sure I finished up all of my major college classes in the spring of 2017, and I did student teaching and graduated in the fall of 2017. So then in the spring of 2018, I was student teaching. I didn't actually get a job right away. And I also had to take my 2 tests in order to be certified as a teacher. So to become a teacher, you have to take your general teacher certification test, which is honestly super easy breezy. Passed it on the first try. Most people do. It's a pretty easy test, especially if you minored in education. And then I had to pass my certification test for family and consumer science, which took me 3 tries to pass it. It was a very stressful spring because I couldn't apply for jobs and accept jobs until I was certified to teach those classes. And even though I went to school for it, that test was just super tough. Thankfully, I passed it on my 3rd try. 3rd time's a charm. But that was an incredible growth and growing experience and journey in my life. But I finally passed it and started interviewing for different jobs, and I actually had a lot of connections through my time student teaching in the district that I student taught in. And so through making all those connections in that district, I really loved the district and I really wanted to go back and teach there. And so thankfully I knew enough people and got a handful of interviews. Really, I had like 3 interviews, and was eventually offered a job at a brand new high school. So the year I was offered the job, the school was finishing its 1st year as a school, and so when I started my 1st year of teaching, it was in its 2nd year as a school. So it was really cool to be at a brand new school. We had a lot of benefits because of that, and so I accepted the job and it was awesome. And so the crazy thing about family and consumer science is that because you are certified to teach a number of different classes, honestly, you're certified to teach like 15 different classes. So as a family and consumer science major, and having been certified in that, the different classes I could teach are interior design, interpersonal studies, fashion design 1, 2, and 3. Interior design is also 3 levels. Then you have principles of human services, principles of education, child development, child guidance, lifetime nutrition and wellness, and then you also have all of your many levels of culinary. And those are the main classes that are offered in school districts. Not every district offers family and consumer science classes, sadly. Thankfully, I am very lucky to be in a district that puts a heavy priority on those career and technology education classes like family and consumer science. And so we do offer most of them, and we actually offer them in pathways, so students can actually stay in that program for a majority of their high school time. So like my students who want to go into the fashion industry can take fashion for 3 straight years and get a lot of really incredible education and technical skills to prepare them for jobs in the future. And so I love how my district focuses on family and consumer science and those classes. And so the crazy thing is that because I'm certified to teach all these different classes, it doesn't mean that I can interview for a job as a FACS teacher. Family and consumer science is also called FCS or FACS. That's like our acronym. And go into an interview and say, hey, I want to teach fashion design. And they're like, cool, here you go. Here's the fashion classes. And they hire you because you're certified to teach a number of different classes, and they give you the classes they need teachers for. So family consumer science classes or teachers are usually given 3 to 4 preps. Sometimes we have 5 preps, and so we're constantly usually changing the classes we're teaching every single period and prepping for a number of different subjects within our realm of FACS. And so my first year of teaching, I had 4 preps. None of them are fashion, surprisingly, because they already had a fantastic fashion design teacher. And so my first year of teaching, I actually taught interior design, interpersonal studies, principles of education and training, principles of human services. Those were the 4 classes that I taught. And I really loved them. I had a lot of fun. It was definitely a crazy, challenging first year of teaching, but I really came to love all of those classes. And as I was finishing my first year of teaching, our fashion design teacher decided that she was going to become a stay-home mom and she wouldn't be coming back the next year. And so our department head came to me and was like, hey, you're already on staff here. I know that you're interested in fashion. If you want to take over the fashion design classes, the job is yours. And it honestly was a kind of tough decision because at this point I had come to know the students I had that first year of teaching really well, and a lot of them would be coming back the next year for interior design too. But I decided that fashion design was too good to pass up because a lot of fashion design teachers stay in that position literally until they retire. And so it really doesn't come available that much, and it really was my dream class and my dream job. So I decided to take it. I moved classrooms and I got ready for my second year of teaching. And so my second year of teaching, I got to have my fashion design classes and be in the job that I am right now, teaching fashion design 1, fashion design 2, practicum of fashion design, which is essentially fashion design 3, and then I still have interpersonal studies, which is another class that I absolutely love. I honestly love it just as much as fashion, so that says a lot about it. And so that's kind of how I got to where I am today as a high school fashion design teacher. That's the story of how I got here, how I took all of my passions and interests that I already had in life and was able to find a career that I was able to use all of those passions and interests every day and teach people about things that I already liked, and also found a job where I still got to pursue an aspect of fashion design, but not as a designer in the industry, but as a teacher preparing high school students who are interested in going into that industry. And so it's really cool to see those students being in the same place that I was in high school, being a dreamer and wanting to go into this incredibly tough industry, but this incredibly awesome and creative industry with so many opportunities these days, and really get to encourage them in that and help them to fulfill and live out their dreams, and in some way, shape, or form kind of get to see them live out the dreams that I had as a high schooler. And it's just been really cool rediscovering that love that I had for fashion, but in a different way, by helping to instill that passion in other students. I can honestly say now that I am in my third year of teaching and my second year of teaching fashion design, that I love the industry and the art and the business of fashion even more than I did, because through the process of teaching it, I have learned so many different aspects about the fashion industry and just fashion design in general that I didn't know when I was in high school. And as much as I love my job now, there are some days where I think to myself, man, I wish I could go back to high school, skip all the messy parts, but go back to high school and tell myself that I needed to follow that dream and go to school and become a fashion designer. Even though it would have been a crazy and at a lot of times a very tough thing to do and a tough industry to break into, I wish that I would have pursued and lived out that passion and that dream. But I take all of that with me now as a teacher, and I'm always constantly trying to encourage my students to live out those dreams. To all the people who tell them that there are no jobs in fashion and that it's tough to get into the industry, yes, it's tough, but the more I have come to learn about fashion, the more I have realized there are so many incredible opportunities in it, because fashion is such a big industry and such a big business. And if you love something enough, it's worth working towards, and it's worth fulfilling and chasing that dream every single day. And so that's why I love what I do, and it's been really cool to take that experience and that love that I have and pour it into videos as well. I know a lot of you, when you watch my videos, I've gotten a number of comments that saying, I realized or could tell you were a teacher because of how you talk in your videos. And I never realized that the teacher side of me flows over into so many other aspects of my life, especially my videos. So I hope that you find those encouraging and educational from a very passionate high school fashion design teacher, and someone who just generally loves passion and who just generally loves fashion and wants to share that love with other people. So for those of you who have ever wondered how I got to where I am today in my job as a teacher, there you go. That is the story. For those of you who are interested in this and pursuing this, I would really encourage you to do research and to pursue it, because it seriously is an incredibly awesome degree, an incredibly awesome and fulfilling job. If you're someone who's always wanted to work in education but never really wanted to be a core teacher, teaching math or history or science or things like that, Family and Consumer Science is an elective class. My students choose to take my class, and so the fact that I get students who generally want to be there and want to learn about the things that I'm teaching, generally, it really is awesome. And the relationships I get to build with my students and the conversations we have are so cool, because they choose to be there and they want to learn about fashion, they want to learn how to sew, they want to learn about interpersonal studies and how to be better at communicating. It really is super cool. So I would encourage you to research that, and maybe this is the video, in my experience, is the story that can help you realize what you want to do with your future. And for those of you who are watching this and want to go major in fashion design or want to work in the fashion industry, I have to say, chase that dream. Like, do not let people discourage you. Don't tell yourself that it's not worth chasing. Don't tell yourself it's too tough. I have to encourage you to chase that dream and to go after it and try to get into the fashion industry if it's something that you really do want to do. Yes, it's tough, but I know that it will be completely worth it, whatever decision you make. And so I have to encourage you in that, to chase after that dream and that passion. So that is a wrap on today's video of how I became a high school fashion design teacher. For those of you who are interested or who have asked, if you want to learn more, have more questions, leave a comment below and I will respond, answering it as best as possible. If there's something that I left out of the video or a more detailed question that you have, drop it in the comments below so I can have a conversation with you and help to answer that. And if you were inspired by or interested by this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and like it. And if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay updated on any new videos or projects in the future. Hopefully we will be having some sewing videos coming out in the next couple of weeks. I have a whole list of things I want to work on. It's just a matter of timing and energy. And at this point, I'm realizing I'm losing the ability to speak because I've been speaking for like 10 hours today. So at this point, it's time to say thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.